where does he live for you now in terms of, is he the best guitarist there ever was? I don't know if those lists even matter, but, do you hold him in that, the upper echelon still?
I mean, that's an excellent question. I'll tell you exactly what my feelings are. I think Edward Van Halen was the most influential guitar player ever. A lot of people will tell you Hendrix. Some people might default to Jimmy Page. Edward affected more guitar players in the world of guitar players than anybody. And part of that reason was Edward grew up in both the analog and digital age, right? Those first records are analog, then digital comes in and the internet. Well, now instead of Jimi Hendrix reaching 800,000 people, Edward is reaching 30 million people, right? Through his posts, through the live shows, um, building his own guitars. My God, if he had done nothing more, he totally revolutionized custom guitar building, right? You know,
Yeah,
um, the guys weren't building their own guitars before then, but Edward did that. So I think he was more influential than any other guitar player.
yeah.
I think Jeff Beck was the greatest guitar player.
Wow.
Yeah, I put Edward in the top five. Um, not that my list matters, in no particular order. Um, and for me, the guitar playing is a big part of it, but I mean, you think about somebody like Hendrix, who not only played that amazing guitar, he sang and he wrote everything,
Yeah,
you know? Edward wrote and played, but he didn't sing, you know, and he didn't write lyrics.
right.
Does that make him less of a guitar player? Jimmy Page, I think Richie Black, excuse me, Richie Blackmore is one of the greatest who ever lived, who never gets his due. Clapton, who I think was brilliant, maybe up until Blind Faith, and after that, didn't do much. So those
Those are
top
the
those
guys.
tops
Yeah.
a pretty rare club, But yeah, Jeff,
You're
passes, a little well
well,
after Edward.
yeah, that would lead me to I was gonna ask you because I know that you are, about to release a Jeff Beck book, or is it finished? What's the status?
So I actually just finished writing the book. The book is going to be shipped on June 24th,
Oh,
which
wow,
is
okay.
Jeff's birthday. Um, I'm actually waiting for books to come in. I have a couple advanced copies that I have, and yeah, it's I think it came out really cool. I did not have the kind of friendship I had with Edward, but I did interview Jeff several times back in the day, and we'd run into each other at these various tribute shows, or we'd meet somewhere, and he was always friendly with me. Um, um, and the thing about Jeff, I actually wrote a book in '78 called The Beck Book, which came out in Japan only. And so what I did was I always wanted to revisit the book. And in some ways, Tone Chaser is sort of analogous to the Beck book. Even though there was no first Van Halen book, I always wanted to kind of write the book that never happened. Well, with the Beck book, I always wanted to revisit that book, which I did. So I used the Beck book kind of like as a glorified outline. I mean, it's just so much better. The writing is so much better. There are more interviews, and subsequently, after the Beck book came out, and while I was doing the Beck book, I interviewed all kinds of people that he played with. I mean, Jimmy Page, talking about playing with Jeff in the Yardbirds. Pete Townsend, who never played with Jeff, of course, but was a contemporary. John Paul Jones, Keith Relf, who was the singer in the Yardbirds. Jim McCarty, who was the drummer of the Yardbirds. Stevie Wonder, Jeff played on a Stevie Wonder record. Stevie Wonder wrote Superstition for Jeff. Um, Carmine Appice and Tim Bogert, Bogert and Appice band, Max Middleton, who was a very important keyboard player, Stanley Clark, the amazing bass player, John McLaughlin. I mean, Donovan, he played with
Hmm,
Donovan a little while. So, I mean, amazing interviews. And a lot of these artists have passed away. So getting them sort of, documented in the book, I mean, I think it takes on even more, importance. So
sure.
the book is called The Original Punk. and it's called that because Jeff referred to himself one time. He goes, "I'm the original punk. I mean, who else could be? Aren't I that person? I was an asshole." I mean, I love that. I mean, he totally got himself, you know? So the original punk, Jeff Beck stories, from Yardbird to the Guitar Shop. Guitar Shop was a record he put out in 1989, and that's the last time he I interviewed him.
Okay,
So basically, talks about, you know, when he came into the world up until 1989,
gotcha.
and that is kind of, you know,
That's so
I
cool.
few words,
Yeah.
but it's a I'm sorry.
That's great. No, no, so, I mean, obviously, we're giving it a plug too, so I obviously wanna recommend, you read both books for if you're watching this video because it's an experience, learning, all about Eddie in that way, and then obviously this new Jeff Beck book sounds incredible. And I don't know a ton about Jeff Beck, so I'm a prime audience for this, so I'm gonna have to go get
Oh,
a
cool.
copy when it comes out. Did you and real quick, just did you have? Or well, actually, who's next? Or do you have another book after this? Or are you just gonna take some time?
Tim, what are you doing to me?
No pressure. You don't have to.
Barely breathe. Actually, I'll tell you, just between you and me and hopefully the world that's listening, I've been thinking about doing a book about, sort of the stories behind my interviews. So not an interview book, not sitting down, you're reading, you know, Jimmy Page talking and me asking questions, but you're hearing about, well, what was that like being on the road with Zeppelin in 1977 for 11 days and hanging with Jimmy Page? And what was that like visiting Carlos Santana in Marin County, which is this extraordinarily beautiful part of Northern California, you know, in his home, and playing tennis with him on his tennis court and trying to beat the
Mm.
shit out of him. I knew I never would. Or um, uh, the great Jeff Beck story, interviewing Jeff Beck in 1973 and not pushing the fucking record button.
Mm.
And his reaction, you know? And I've got some pretty fun stories like that, so I was thinking about, you know, maybe putting together kinda like a collection of, you know, the story behind the story and
Absolutely,
putting an
you
episode
should.
where
Let me solve that for you. You absolutely should write that book. That you
you think
you
so? That would be cool, right?
I think that would because that like I mentioned it earlier, some of the great part of this book is that, like, we're along the ride along with you, for the ride, and, it's just we get to place ourselves in that story. So, like, even just describing that story of Dennis with Santana and all this, that's the stuff that we're just like, I mean, because there's everyone else can write about the scales that Eddie played, or, you know what I
Yeah,
mean, like that stuff. So yeah, I mean, if you've got them, get them out there because I think it would be a fascinating read. But no
that's cool, man.
pressure, no pressure.
Yeah, yeah, I appreciate it, you know, it's I write about 2 lines a day, you know? It's like it's like I'm, waiting for the Beck book to come in and, you know, try to get that off my head, but,
Sure.
actually, just today as we speak, the Beck book, and I'm not trying to use this as a plug, but synchronicity wise, the book just went up on Amazon.
Oh, cool. Okay,
I don't know
great.
if you've ever sold on Amazon.
No.
It was more difficult getting the book on Amazon than it was writing it.
Of
Anyway, the book is on Amazon, and this is a shameless plug. Can I say this, Tim? Is
course, yeah.
okay? So you can find the book on Amazon. Just go type in the original Punk by Steve Rosen. And you can also get it directly through my website, which is tonechaserbook.com. One word, tonechaserbook.com. And you can email me directly and buy the book directly through me. Um, is there a way that we could maybe put up a link to my
I think
um,
so. Yeah,
email
yeah, for sure. That'll be in
somewhere,
the
Tim?
oh,
But
yeah, I
yeah,
think so.
or you can also find it on eBay and Reverb. Just type in the original Punk on eBay or Reverb for any of you guitar geeks out there. You're buying a guitar, you want to read a book while you're practicing, go
Exactly.
check out the original Punk. So,
Awesome.
yeah.